Right. Booyah. What is good? What's up, y'all? We are here live and direct at 8:23, right, Angel? Is that 8:23? Yep. Stockton, California. I go by the name of Elvin McGlinte, aka DJ Excalibur. I got a very special guest in the house, in the building, coming all the way from Modesto, California. My man, my homie, DJ 199, y'all.
Hey, what's up?
What's up, bro?
Got the name right too. Oh,
Hey, man, I know what's up, man.
thank you.
Oh man, how you doing? How's the ride over here?
It was good. It was a little slow in Modesto.
Traffic?
Well, yeah, because they're working on the freeway a little
Oh,
bit. I
okay,
mean,
okay.
throughout the year or two, probably. I think it's gonna be
Yeah.
worked on. My entrance to the freeway and a little bit by the mall.
Okay.
But once I got out of Manteca, it was all good.
Yeah. A couple weeks ago, I did a gig in Modesto, and on the way there, this was about like around 8 p.m. or so, and damn, it was traffic, and then we were wondering like, oh, it might have been a car crash or something, right? There were an airplane was on the freeway. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I
heard,
heard
heard that, right?
about it. Yeah, I heard
I
about
was
it.
like, what the hell? Airplane. So yeah, man. Well, thank you for coming out, bro. Appreciate it. You know what? Let's see what we're gonna do. I met you, I think over a year ago or 2 years ago or something. I forget when, but and I met you through a mutual friend of ours,
Yeah,
Vidal.
yeah.
Shout out to Vidal.
B-boy Vidal.
Yeah. And I at first I didn't know he knew you, and then once he told me, I was like, oh shit, like 99, like I've heard of that guy, and and how I heard about you was like 20. This was over like 20 some years ago when I got into DJing, and a buddy of mine told me that he heard you on the radio. I was like, yeah, you should check him out. And I was like, all right, cool. And you were mixing at that time for Hot 105.
Yeah,
It
it was
was.
Hot 105. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, man. Heard couple of your mixes, and I was like, oh shit, this brother's dope. And when Badell told me that he knew you, I was like, oh shit, that's tight. So and to finally meet you, man. I don't know if like people in 2 and I know. I'm pretty sure, but you have a deep history, bro. Like I think people should hear your perspective and your story, and that's what we're gonna get into right now. And um, so like when you cause when I was talking to you, you have this interesting take on like as far as like how you got started and uh, like the term DJ itself, like um, explain that, like because when you were young, you told me over the phone that your mom showed you how to use or played records, right?
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, she was really into music and into buying vinyl, and so I mean at the time, that's all there was. It was cassettes and 8 tracks and vinyl albums and 45s. So she was
Going
heavily
way back right there.
yeah, she was heavily buying the records. Mostly it was the albums.
What time period is this?
This is the uh, like the mid '70s. This was
Damn.
yeah, like yeah, man. So anyway, so she was buying the vinyl, and we had a nice home stereo, and had the record player, and she would put the records on and the full albums, and she would go back to like another room in the house, like the living room or the kitchen or somewhere. She would like sew or make something for dinner or clean something, but she always had to walk back to the living room to change the songs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she was constantly doing that, and she had to stop what she was doing all the time for, a new track to come on or whatever. So, or new,
And this is
new
old
song.
school.
Yeah,
school
yeah.
record.
So I was only 4, and she brought me over and showed me what to do, how to, change the songs for her. Basically, she used me to change the songs for her, so she wouldn't have to walk all the way
Right.
back all the time.
Right.
And so, she said, "Here's how you hold it.
You were
hold
the guinea pig.
Yeah. So here's how you hold the record. You pick up the tone arm, basically with your finger. She showed me the grooves. She pointed at the grooves and said, This is where the music is at," and to help me understand. And she said, "In this little gap right here, that's the in between this song and that song." And I knew there was dead air in between the songs.
Yeah.
So looking at the grooves, I could tell, okay, she means this is the song, this is the gap where I always hear the dead air, and this is the new song. And I would look at the label. She showed me, look, here's the songs right here. This is this. And so yeah, I got it. And so she told me to be very careful. I was careful with holding everything. She told me what to do. And so I was like, all right. And so she took off. And then whenever the songs were over or needed to be changed, it was up to me to find the next track, basically. So I was her DJ in the house while she was doing things. She never knew what was coming on next because I was in control at that time to select the songs. And so I got it in my mind where, well, I'm going to play this. Well, I know she likes this. Well, let me grab this,
And
So
this
basically,
was at 4 years old.
yeah,
right?
I was 4
Damn.
and living in Fresno.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that. And it was kind of like super confidence builder, man, from the get-go from that point on. Like anything that ever happened with vinyl or music or like that, I knew I could do it. It was easy to me because if I'm doing it at 4 years old, like happy, confident, my mom straight showed me it was easy. It's, so yeah. So I had a confidence.
Shouts out to mom, man.
Yeah,
Shouts out
man.
to mom. She laid down the foundation right there. So let's fast forward like I would say high school a little bit. So early on, you had the basic fundamentals. You kind of knew certain things because I know when we were talking over the phone sometime last week. I was just admiring about like wow, you were able to pick up certain things at a young age, almost like a child prodigy kind of thing, and then you eventually moved to Modesto, right? When did you move to Modesto?
Yeah, we moved to Modesto when I was turning 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I had my 6th birthday at the new house on the west side, Modesto.
Yeah.
That summer we moved over. So
Yeah. Damn. And so let's move forward to the 80s. Like this is like my favorite decade because hip hop at that time was still new. Certain movies came out, hip hop movies,
right.
and let's talk about that time period. Like, what was next? Like in high school, like the movies came out. Like we talked about Beat Street and Break In.
Yeah.
Were you starting to get your own equipment? Were you advancing like the as far as like the techniques when it came to DJing? Like how that came about like during that time?
By the time I got to freshman year in high school, I had already figured out a lot of things, from when I was 4 to then,
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to scratch already, mix already with no pitch.
I know you were working without a mixer.
Yeah, and no mixer. You know what I mean? I was making tapes too. And so
Important right there. Pause tapes, right?
yeah,
That's
I
very
was
important.
doing pause tape edits and mixing some of those with some live scratches and some other like records on top of that. You know what I mean? So it was tricky and it was cheap sounding, but my friends went for it. They were like, "Oh, this is dope."
Yeah.
This is dope. Oh my God. So I made them for my friends, and I kind of sold tapes a little bit at school,
Mm-hmm.
here and there, but it wasn't like super massive like other DJs. There was another DJ at my school, Modesto High, and he was selling tapes. That guy was the DJ, and he was
Yeah.
selling tapes. But anyway, so what was the question again?
Well, just kind of like like when Beat Street and Breaking came out, like,
The whole hip hop
yeah,
movement.
the it's because hip hop was still early, right?
Yeah, I mean, for us on the West Coast, especially being in that time period and that age bracket, man, we didn't see a lot what was happening on the East Coast,
Yeah.
and we didn't know because we had no social media. I read. Sometimes I would go to my grandma's and she'd have Life magazine or Time magazine, and
Yeah.
sometimes there'd be like an article, and I would see that there was other movies besides Beat Street and Breaking that came out. There was Wild Style
Oh yeah, yeah,
and Style
yeah.
Wars, and I never heard of those or
Mhm.
saw those until the '90s.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because I just being from the West Coast and being where I lived, we didn't know about that. Well, I
Right.
didn't. I mean, I know there's some heads, some hip hop heads that probably saw those over here on the West Coast,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at the time, I mean, I didn't have access to that, and I didn't know.
Hmm.
So I first saw Breaking in my freshman year at the movie theater. We ditched that day. It was Cinco de Mayo weekend, and instead of going to MJC, we all just went to the movie theater. Everybody just caught the bus. You saw all the hip hoppers, all the poppers, breakers. Everybody was getting off the bus, man, to go see Breaking.
Yeah.
It was a big deal. And then a month later, it was Beat Street.
Yeah. That's dope because when I got introduced to like Beat Street and all that, it was around somewhere around the mid '80s. I eventually saw it. I don't know. I can't remember when I saw it, but that movie right there kind of had a like profound impact on me because I was like, whoa, like this is cool, like because you had in that movie like graffiti,
Yeah.
DJing, uh, breaking, and I think we can both agree that it kind of had a profound impact on you too, right? Like when you first saw that.
Right. Because we knew about those elements of things separately.
Yeah, yeah,
But
separately.
but in that movie, it brought it all together,
Yeah,
more united as something like as a movement, kind of in a way, or
yeah,
like a
hell yeah.
To us, it wasn't a trend or a fad. We've been seeing graffiti, we've been seeing the growth of the styles, and we've been seeing the
Hmm.
dance, the street dance, since we were kids, and the DJing since we were kids, and the rapping since we were kids. So we saw that, but we didn't know it was going to be under like more of an
Yeah, one
umbrella.
umbrella, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And so when we saw that in that movie, it made a lot of us feel like, yeah, that's us. We could identify with
yeah.
that movie.
Right, right. Yeah,
Strong, like
yeah.
really strong, man. Whereas Breaking, it was a different style. It was based in L.A. And like
Yeah.
I would tell people, and we would always say it should have been called Locking instead of Breaking, because there was a lot of locking.
Yeah, yeah.
There's like kind of felt like there was more locking in that
Yeah,
movie,
pop locking. Yeah,
but it was
and that was a West Coast thing
it was a
too.
West Coast thing,
Yeah.
and I know some people. I ended up meeting some people that were in that movie later on in life, and it was like an honor to meet them. Like some of the dancers and some of the people that took part in that movie, man. And I never knocked Breaking. It was
Right.
out of the people's control. It was other people, that made it. It wasn't the actors that made it. But Beat Street, me and my friends gravitated more towards Beat Street.
Right.
Straight,
Same
like
here, man.
yeah, straight
Same
up, man.
here. Um. All right. Like, so that movie came out like, uh, you said ninth grade, right? Like when you were in ninth grade.
Yeah, it was 1984,
Okay.
and me and my friends we were freshmen.
Yeah. And DJ wise, like, were you doing parties at this point? Were you getting buying equipment? Were you getting together with other DJs? What was going on at this point, like around that era?
During that time, after we saw Beat Street, I guess, wasn't doing any gigs, and I was not able to. I didn't own any DJ equipment. My parents got me a record player that had the AM, FM, and the 8-track and dual cassette all in one unit box thing.
Yeah, the big old clunky.
Yeah, I had that, and I practiced on that, and I would take it places, different parts of the house, whatever, and mix with other stereos we had. But anyway, I wasn't clicking up with any other DJs because I didn't even consider myself a DJ. I just considered myself just a hip hop head, basically, and that just a person that can DJ.
Yeah.
But I wasn't claiming to be a DJ because I felt like, at the time,
you weren't there yet.
To me, the title of DJ, it had so much respect to it.
Yeah.
And I respected it. So I felt like, I know how to DJ, but I don't feel I should call myself a DJ.
Yeah. You were still early in the process.
Yeah, I that's just the way I felt, I had just a lot of respect for the title itself.
No doubt.
So I didn't have any gigs, and I didn't click up with any DJs because I didn't know any personally at the time in 9th grade. And finally, actually, I take that back. I met one in my graphic arts class. So I wasn't buying any equipment either. There was a DJ, popular DJ too, in my graphic arts class, and I didn't know who he was and that he was a DJ. He was sitting at my table. We had 6 people at our table in the class, and he happened alphabetical order. That's how you sit. And me and him were sat across from each other, and I didn't know what he did or he was a DJ or anything. He was making flyers in this graphic arts class.
What high school is this?
Modesto High.
Oh, Modesto High. Okay.
And so I saw him making flyers, and I was like, I saw the names and saw what he printed, and then I saw him making business cards in this class. Because you need to have projects. You can make T-shirts, you can make whatever you want. Your assignment is what you want to do, and you turn it in, you get graded. And so he was making business cards for himself and flyers. Like, this guy's a DJ.
Yeah.
And I know too because I started figuring it out when we were on our way to graphic arts class. Before the bell rings, everybody's hurrying up, and these girls would always be like, "Hey, Junior, hey, Junior, you got any tapes?" And he was
got
like,
the girls.
Yeah, it was, man, he knew all these girls, man. And I'm walking to class, and I was like, how does he know her?
Yeah.
She's fine. You know what I mean? Like, dang, he knew almost all the fine ones, man.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, whatever. So, and he was also selling weed too.
Yeah.
And I found out later. But so that's the first DJ basically that I kind of met. And it wasn't even through DJing. It was through, I had him in a class.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Talk about the, because I'm really like heavy on scratching.
Yeah.
Talk about this, that moment when, because when you were telling me over the phone, the first time, because you were at this particular store.
Yeah.
And you saw someone scratch the record. Like, talk about that a little bit.
It was the summer before my freshman year. So just out of 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I had always heard this sound on different recordings, like the Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel mix, that little mix. Yeah, and there was a noise on there that had like the
Yeah.
And I didn't know what that was. Me and my friend Albert, we didn't know how you did it. We thought it was like with reel-to-reel tapes where they push pause and then they just would move back and forth, the sound.
Reel to reel. Shit, man. That's old school term right there for our youngins out there listening.
Yeah, man. So we always, we knew what that sound, sounded like. We knew what it was in these little mixed songs. And then Herbie Hancock came out with Rocket that summer in '83. And so, but when we heard that sound, we were like, oh, that's that same trick that they do from 2 years before on that Grandmaster Flash record. So we knew it was like a studio trick, we didn't know how you did it.
Yeah, yeah.
And we were like, we didn't know it was from moving the vinyl. At that point, me and my friends, we didn't know. So I was in a record store a block away from Modesto High.
Yeah.
And it was called LA Connection. And it was ran by DJs. DJs were working there. And
that's not there anymore. Right?
It's not there anymore. The building is still there. It's like a ministry place, like a worship place. But we would go there, and they had all the new music. It was you go in there, that the DJ in there is playing, the hot music.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to cuss on this thing?
Yeah, man.
They're playing the hot shit, man. we would walk in and you can guarantee, because like there was other record stores in Modesto, and they would play just the album, front to back. Just the employee would put it on and put the cover right there and say now playing, and you'd walk in and you hear whatever. But at LA Connection, it was the DJ playing for you basically what he wanted to sell you, what he knew you were looking for, because when they get the hot shit, man, they know everybody's coming in there for the hot shit. So
back up a little bit. With the record store, what were the main ones that you were going to eventually? Like you said, LA Connection, right? Were there any other ones?
At the time, for that music, for like those non super mainstream songs, because they had all the known stuff in there too, and really they didn't really cater to the pop and rock. It was more soul, R&B, funk, and then the rap was in LA Connection. But at the Warehouse Records, it was a chain out here. You know what I mean?
I remember that.
Yeah, it was the Warehouse.
We had one here too in town.
It was the Warehouse, Tower, Record Factory, and LA Connection also had a record store in Stockton.
Oh, I didn't.
It was on Charter.
That.
Yeah.
What?
They had two. It was on. I went to that one too one time.
Wow.
And actually, the guy that showed me what I'm about to tell you in Modesto, he was working in Stockton. I remember seeing him in the Stockton one before. Stockton store. So one day I was in LA Connection, and it was just me by myself, and I was browsing through the records, and I rode my bike over there. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have a car, no license. My friends didn't have cars. I rode my 10-speed. Actually, it was my sister's 10-speed, but it was a boy's bike. So
that was the thing back then too, the 10-speed.
Yeah, I was riding the 10-speed over there by myself through the West Side, man, to LA Connection, and I was in there all sweaty, messy hair, because the wind gets in your hair, when you're riding the bike fast. So I was in there, man, and the DJ. The clerk, is behind the counter, and he's playing the music, and all of a sudden, man, out of nowhere, he does the wiki scratchy noise sound that I had been, in search of how do you make that sound,
Yeah.
So he did it. He scratched, and then he's like, I looked over there, and he was trying to get my attention. He goes, "Oh, you like that, huh?" And I just nodded my head, and he said, "Come here, little homie. It's called scratching." And I went over there, and he was trying to show me how he did it, what it was. Yeah. And so he just moved his hand on the record back and forth. He didn't cut. Mm-hmm. He didn't use the fader or nothing. He was just moving his hand back and forth to the beat of the other song, because they had two turntables set up in there. Yeah. They basically are DJing for you. So one record was playing, he was scratching, on the other side, and he was still showing it, and then he looked back at me. He goes like, "That's all you do." And I was in my head. My head was like exploded, dude. Because
I bet, bro.
Because we had been in search of how you make that sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't know. We weren't at parties. We weren't seeing videos. We didn't know. In '83, we didn't know. I didn't know. And so once I saw him show me, he straight showed me. I was like, that's all you, I was thinking in my head, that's all you do this whole time? I could have been scratching in '81, man. You know what I'm saying? If I would have known that shit. So, right. So I bought a few records, and one of them was the 45 to George Clinton, Atomic Dog. And I knew that the the B side had a dub version of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I knew how it sounded. I knew what it went like. So I bought it for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, Atomic Dog was a big hit, but I didn't buy it for necessarily the hit. I wanted the dub. Because I heard it before, and I was like, I want that. So I just got my bag. I bought the records, and I got on my 10-speed, and I must have, I don't know, been passing up cars and stuff, man, trying to get home so fast because I know I'm gonna scratch right when I walk in the house, man. You know, so
like it was like you discovered gold and shit. You know?
For real, dude. You don't know, man. Like that, seeing that, and that guy, the way he showed me, so like cool. It was like almost like I look back at it. I think it was meant to be that happened.
Yeah.
When it happened and how it happened. You know what I mean? Because there was no way I was gonna ever, you know, learn or figure it out because I hadn't figured it out yet. You know, I didn't know. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And eventually it would have came along, but timing was right, man. I went home and I got the Atomic Dog 45, and I first learned how to scratch myself on 45s.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
You know what I mean? Because my little record player and things I was doing was, you know, I played albums in 12 inches, but when I scratched, I wanted to hear the claps and the little sounds of the Atomic Dog, so I was doing that, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so easy." I didn't have a scratch pad or a slip mat, you know what I mean? I just did it on the plastic platter, and it moved so good and so free. It didn't hold back, and I didn't give a shit about my needle because I was taught, you don't put the record backwards. It'll break your needle. Yeah. And which I broke needles when I was 1 year old. At my grandma's. I told you over the phone, man, my you know, I was always, I guess, the baby that went over there to the record player, you know, and messed with the records once I saw it. I guess I saw people messing with the record players, changing the music. You know what I mean? So like my uncle told me the story that I broke the needle twice at two different family functions after they fixed the first one and paid money to get it, you know, a new needle. I guess at the next one I did the same thing, and the comment was by somebody like, "Oh, watch him turn out to be a DJ or something."
Right.
You know what I mean?
Then eventually.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And like I was a baby, and I was just, I don't know, I was going over there, you know, to every time they put the music on, and I was trying to mess with it. So none of the other, you know, babies or kids were tripping off the record player, but I guess at a baby's age, I was just already drawn to it somehow.
Yeah, because the scratching, like when I seen it back in the day or heard about it, or just even the sound, like
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you know, like you can do that to the and it makes that sound like it's I don't know how you put it into words, but it just sounds dope. Like it made like a real impression on, like, for me. Like I was like, wow, that's a
Yeah,
dope
man.
sound, you know?
Because for those of us who know like true scratching and the things you can do as DJ skill, just because it goes back and forth, you can move it back and forth, that's not the limit. You can go slow and then fast at the end. You can go backwards and do, like, you could stop halfway kind of, and you know, you can do so many things with it that we know. But people, the stereotype is like the wiki, you know, you just do that and that's it. Like, oh, what's so special about that?
There's more to it.
There's so many things. And then that's just, you know, moving it back and forth. Then you got the fader or the line switch or whatever you use. Then you start taking the back scratch or the forward. You know, you can do so many patterns now. Like it's just people don't get it. You know, it's a whole culture that I've seen, you know, from its beginnings. And I respect it. You know what I mean? So a lot of people they that don't know, that are outside the bubble, they just think it's one thing, and like, what's so dope about that? But no, there's a lot of dopeness that goes involved with scratching.
Right. And you know what? At the same time too, is like, you gotta know when to scratch. I mean, you're not gonna go to a club and like fucking start tearing shit up. You know, like everyone's there to listen to music. I mean, you can do a little bit, but like, you don't want to, like, you know.
Over the vocals and stuff.
Yeah,
Hey, man.
Well, you know, like do it for hella long, or like, this is like bro, like, you know, like.
But let me tell you, man. To this very day, we're in 2019, and there's fools that will scratch too much, man, You know what I mean? And like, yeah, it's bad. And
Right. Yeah, you
and
just got to know your environment.
there's a time and place for it,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
To me, it's if you're doing something that is for people to dance to, like an event where they're going to dance, and that's your job to make them dance. You complement it with some scratching here and there. That's it's
Don't overdo it.
yeah. What you got to do is complement
Yeah.
you complement what's happening. Sometimes you don't even need to scratch, but sometimes you can pump it up and do your thing, and
Yeah.
but complement the job you're doing with it. Don't oversaturate it just to show off. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
there you go.
Maybe at the end, if somebody's there and you guys, the lights are on and you want to show somebody that was asking you questions, like, oh yeah,
I know,
okay.
like
You know what I
everyone's
mean?
like at the end of the party, everyone's drunk already, like everyone's leaving or something.
Yeah, there's you can do it then maybe, but if it's not a scratch event, and then just respect the dance floor, I guess basically is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because I met you when I met you through Vidal was at the Scratcher that our boy Jason Gully,
Shouts out to Jason Gully.
yeah, one stop DJ shop
y'all.
in Modesto. That's where we met. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he has that, man, because it's an outlet for people like yourself to go and just scratch with other scratchers and have a session. And I know like that's important. I personally am not that deep into it, the scratching, but I'll show up sometimes. Like if I have a free Sunday, and then if it lands on that one, I'll go check it out. Right. Or like if I know I found some vinyl that I think some people might want to get, I'll go there and sell some records maybe. Right. But I try to make it out when I can. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm glad that's there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he done a lot for the community, for us DJs. Shoot, I knew him since the Guitar Center days.
Yeah.
Before the One Stop DJ shop. So
Wow, that's cool, man.
Yeah, man.
I met him through the radio station. He was on Hot 105.
Oh, he was there too?
He was on Hot 105, man. That's how I met him.
Wow, that's dope.
He was actually one of the guys that would play my mixes on the station. He had
was he a power mixer or
well, he wasn't mixing. He was an on-air personality, is what they call it. Yeah.
Okay, that's dope.
He was on the air. He had his own shift on the weekends. It was late night, and my mixes would come on during his shift, and he'd be the one to air the mixes. Right. It was cool. There's still some air checks, some tapes of him talking while my mixes are playing. Nice. He has those. Yeah, nice. I might have some too. I got a lot of tapes of air checks of things from the radio station.
Let's talk about the central unit real quick. Like how did that came about? Because Vidal mentioned to me before that you were a part of a mobile gig, mobile crew.
Yeah, there was a mobile crew that was formed in 1981 by a family, the Amaya family from Modesto. And they're still rocking to this day in 2019 as Central Unit.
Wow.
It's still in the family, and they're still doing DJ gigs. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
And I first heard of them when I was popping. I was in a popping crew. And we were trying to get a DJ crew to kind of co-sponsor us so that whenever a DJ crew had like some party gigs, maybe we could go pop at their gigs and we'd be their poppers, And so me and my friends were like, who's out there? And I didn't know any DJ crews out there, So they started naming names, and one of the names was Central Unit. So that's when I first heard of the name Central Unit, was because one of my friends that I popped with mentioned their name. So I knew there was a DJ crew. And I ended up meeting them later, maybe like a year after I heard their name. I got to meet them. And because my best friend, Albert, was dating the sister of the owner of Central Units, Louis Amaya was married to a girl named Molly. Molly had a sister named Anna. Well, my best friend was going out with Anna, so she's like the sister-in-law, basically, of Central Unit.
Yeah.
And so Albert was getting asked to go be a roadie for Central Unit. Like, he was a good, good worker, strong guy, you know what I mean? To come and lift our speakers, type of, they took him to some gigs. Yeah. So he was getting in, he was getting in with Central Unit because he was dating, who he was dating. Yeah. And so he was a roadie, and he also worked with Lewis at the same job. They got him a job there, where he worked at. And so he was super in with Central Unit, He is the guy that basically, he's one of the people that I wouldn't be DJing and doing all this stuff the way I am if it wasn't for my friend Albert.
Nice.
Because he motivated, he's the one that told me, you need to be a DJ.
Right.
You should be a DJ. Like, he saw all the things that had led up to me early on in my years. And we loved music. He's the one that introduced me to LA Connection. He's the one that introduced me to Central Unit. Right. He's the one that told me I should be a DJ, that I need to be a DJ. And so he put me on game on a lot of stuff, man, early when I was young. We were best friends since elementary. So when he got in with Central Unit, he was mentioning me to them, telling me I should click up with them, and they weren't having it though. I was too young, basically. They were like, well, we got enough DJs already. And they didn't need me as a DJ. And I was only a freshman. Right. And so, but Albert kept saying, I'm going to bring you to some gigs. I'm going to bring you to this gig. They're playing at Modesto High. I'm going to take you with me to Modesto High, So I got to roadie a little bit for Central Unit with Albert. He was bringing me along just so that I could be more familiar with the guys of Central Unit, because he felt like I needed to be with them, even though they were not having me as a DJ. Right. So I got to kick it with them.
You got to earn your stripes.
Yeah, I guess, man. And I mean, so I went to a few gigs with them when I was a freshman, and they still weren't having me. And so I finally, through my high school years, man, I got more records, more skill, scratching on 45s all the time,
Yeah.
And I was like making tapes. Albert was...
You were getting ready.
I was just, it was just fun, dude. I would just come home and straight practice, right. That's all. And so I guess it was preparing me for something bigger, I guess,
right.
So, but I didn't know at the time. So in my junior year, going into senior year, mind you, all this time I've been trying to get with other DJ crews too. Okay. That dude in my class, junior, that I had in graphic arts, I tried to get in his crew. Right. The LA Connection crew that had the record store, tried to get with them. I was too young. Yeah. They just brushed me off, which is fine. I probably wouldn't have been ready at the time anyways, but I would have been with a crew, Yeah. So finally in my the summer before my senior year, me and my boy Michael were riding from the quick stop home, and we heard this bass coming from this garage in this neighborhood. We drove up, we stopped, and it was a DJ crew formed by this guy named Joe Romo. It was called West Coast Productions, and they had a DJ in there named Bonsai, and we just stopped to see where the bass was coming from, and he had made homemade speaker cabinets. And Joe said, "Hey, I heard you DJ," and I was like, "Well, I know how." He said, "Why don't you get with our crew?" And I was like, "I don't know." He's like, "Well, you got to battle Bonsai."
Right there on the spot?
Yeah, on the spot. And so I was like, all right. So Bonsai went up doing his little scratching and stuff, and I went up there, and they had a mixer. I never mixed on a mixer. 2 turntables with pitch. I never messed with that shit. So I did my best. Yeah. And they said, we're going to think about it. I was like, you know what? Let me go home and get my little box, my turntable box that I practice on, and let me bring it over here and hook in so I could really show you. Yeah. They're like, all right. So me and my friend Michael went to my house. Michael had to go home, and he couldn't come back with me. So I rode on my 10-speed holding this big old turntable box with one hand. And it's like rattling so bad. I'm just trying to hurry up. And Joe didn't live too far. It was a couple blocks. Went there, hooked it in, blasted Bonsai so hard that he came up and shook my hand and said, "Hey, man, you need to be in my crew. You need to be in the crew. Be in the crew with us, man." And so I got with them. So we had our first dance like a month later. They put me on the flyer. I didn't have a name. I didn't call myself anything.
You know what? And there's a history behind that too, right? With your name.
Right. Yeah, man. So Joe Romo called me Mix Man. He said, "We're gonna call you Mix Man because you are our Mix Man." I'm like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. I didn't really like it, but I just rolled with it. Right. They put me on the flyer. I still have those flyers. It's West Coast production at Legion Hall, and Mixman and Bonsai was on there, and so we played at that dance at Legion Hall. Hardly anybody went, but guess who went? Central Unit, the guys who had not been wanting me to get in their crew for the past 3 years. Yeah. Who my boy Albert was telling them so much about me, trying to give them tapes, of mine. I had been to their house where the records are at Central Unit. When I was a sophomore, I went to their house. They had a bunch of records, and they made me a tape. And I was cool with them. I went to some gigs with them. Them guys, they showed up at this dance that nobody was really at. And with their Central Unit T-shirts, and the Central Unit crew rolled in, and I played there, and there was a fight there, and it broke up early, and my mom was picking up my sister, and early from the dance, and so my mom saw the fight outside, and she told me, "Get in the car right now. You're not staying anymore." I was like, my turntable was in there because I brought my little wiki turntable, the one that I would scratch good on. Yeah. And she's like, "I don't care. You're not being around this violence, and you need to get in the car with your sister and her friends." I was like, damn, I couldn't even tell them bye. So I just jumped in the car and went to Joe Romo's house the next day. Well, I was going to go to Joe Romo's house, right? Well, the very next day after that party, the one that Central Unit came to, the one that hardly anybody went to, I had to leave early. That dance, the next day, I get a call from Louis Amaya from Central Unit. He was the leader of Central Unit. Right. And he said, "Hey, we have an opening for one more DJ slot in our crew. Would you be interested in getting with Central Unit?" And man, I had been trying to get in Central Unit for 3 years, And for me to get the phone call the day after I had been with another crew at Legion Hall for their dance. See, Lewis wasn't at that dance. It was the other members of Central Unit. I don't know what happened to make Lewis call me the next day, but he called me, and you know what I told him? I said, "Nah, it's okay. I'm with West Coast Productions now." You know what I mean? But thank you. And he didn't let it go. He said, "Well, you know what? Just think about it. Right. He didn't accept my no as a no, but I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. So I hung up. Later on that day, I went to go pick up my turntable that I had left at the dance, and I knew Joe Romo and them, must have brought it home. I mean, they wouldn't have done me dirty. So I went to Joe's house. I said, "Hey, I'm here to pick up my turntable, man." He's like, "Yeah." I said, "How'd the rest of the party go?" He's like, "Oh, we ended it because of the fight." And I was like, oh, okay. I said, "Guess who called me, man?" He's like, "Who?" I said, "Louis Amaya, dude, from Central Unit called me today." He's like, "Oh, what do you want?" I said, "He's asking me to be in the crew." All of a sudden, they don't have a slot now for a DJ. I've been trying to get with them for 3 years. Now, all of a sudden, I'm with you, and they want me to join them. He was like, "What'd you tell him?" I said, "I told him no." And he's all, "Well, I think you better tell him yes."
What?
And I said, "What are you talking about? Why? I'm rolling with you, man." Because that motherfucking Joe took me in on the spot when I was just riding my bikes. You know what I mean? Right. He gave me a shot to battle his DJ, and I was in the crew. Yeah. And I was like, why is he telling me no? Like, why is he telling me I should be with Central Unit? Well, what happened was he lost so much money on that dance. He had to pay for the hall, had to pay for flyers. So he borrowed money from his mom and his uncle for that dance, and he was going to pay them back off people showing up. Well, he lost. So he owed his mom and his uncle's money now. He had to sell all his equipment to pay them back.
It was only right.
So he had to disband his crew
Right.
to pay them back. So there was no crew anymore.
No more.
So that's why he told me, he's like, I think you better just get with them. Because like I wasn't going to work with him anymore. So I was like, my heart sunk like, what the hell, dude? I just got with you guys, you know what I mean? And now there's no more crew. So I got my turntable. And then, what he told me too was, you need to be with them. You would do good things with them. He told me straight up.
That's dope.
And so I was like, damn. So I got my turntable and I rode back home. And I called Lewis back, man. You know what I mean? And I was like, hey, you know what? I think I'm down to get with you guys, you know? And he's like, okay, we're going to have a tryout. We're going to have an audition. You know, we just want to see what you do and stuff. And I was like, yeah, cool. So there was a quinceañera in Madera that they had. They were going to put me on live on the spot, you know? And so we packed into this van with the equipment, and there was another car following, and we got a flat tire in Turlock already. And we had to fix the flat. We drove to Madera for this quinceañera. It was off the hook. It was live, lit, as people say. And that was basically like my audition. And so after my audition, I got in the group, Central Unit, and I was rocking with them for 4 years after that.
All right. Damn, dope, man. Like in the 90s, like I was saying before, first time I heard about you was you were on the station Hot 105. A friend of mine mentioned it back in the day. How did that came about? Like, what made you get on the radio? How'd you get started on the radio? Like, what happened there?
My first time being on Hot 105 came about. It was just by chance. It was just another one of those meant to be type of situations. A friend of mine, we had known about Hot 105, you know, everybody in the Valley and Modesto.
Yeah.
And they mostly played R&B. And my friend got asked to go to Hot 105 on the weekend because there was an R&B group that was looking for a manager, and the potential manager was working at Hot 105. But that manager asked my friend, who sings R&B, he asked him, hey, can you come and critique this group? They want me to manage them. I don't know if they're really any good. Can you give me your take on them, if I should manage them or not? So my friend Paul called me up and said, hey, I'm going to go to Hot 105. There's a guy there, Izzy Real. He wants me to listen to this R&B group. Come on, roll with me. I was like, I ain't going to Merced. He's like, no, come on, G, you know, come to Merced, man. I'll buy you some food. And everybody knows that's the way to get me, man, is buy me something to eat. You know what I mean? So I said, all right, cool. So he picked me up, and he had a nice car system. So he got in the car and he said, hey, bring a tape. I was like, okay, I'll bring a tape. So I got a tape. It was one of my mixes, you know, I made, and got in the car. We drove to Merced. He listened to this R&B group at this radio station. We went into Hot 105 studios, and it was Izzy Real and his girlfriend, and me and Paul went in there and listened to this R&B group. We saw their 8x10 glossies and stuff, and my friend Paul was critiquing them for Izzy. Well, I had known they had been mixing. They had a old school 5 o'clock mix for a couple of weeks, like maybe a month before that, on Hot 105. It was a Sean Tycho from San Jose, Shawnee Fresh. He was the DJ that was doing it on Hot 105, and I remember that name from old school days. And I asked Izzy, I said, hey, how come I don't hear Sean Tycho in the mix anymore? There's nobody mixing. And he said, well, we don't know any reliable DJs. Do you know any reliable DJs? And I didn't say me, but my friend Paul points at me and says, like, he's a DJ. And then Izzy said, oh, yeah? You got a tape? And I said, I got a tape in the car. So he said, yeah, go get the tape. So I went to the tape, brought it back. He listened to it. while we were talking and stuff, still in the studio, and he said, "Hey, this is pretty good. I want to show my music director, Alan Chase, the your mix." And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Let me keep the tape." I was like, "Well, nah, man, I'll give you a copy, but I mean, can you make a copy here?" He's like, "No, just give me the tape and I'll show him tomorrow." I'm like, "I'm not letting you keep the tape, man. I'm going home with my tape." So he said, "Well, just go to Rayleigh's in Atwater tomorrow. We'll be there, and just bring a tape for him." And so the next day, so me and Paul drove back to Modesto. He's like, "Yeah, you really gonna give him a tape?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll give him a tape." He's like, "Okay, I'll take you to Atwater." So we went to Atwater, gave Alan Chase, the music director, a tape. Got introduced to him from Izzy, and gave him the tape. And he listened to it a couple days later. He liked it. He said, "Hey, I got the okay from my boss, Pete Jones, to put you on the air for 5 o'clock Fridays, old school mix. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Okay, what's your DJ name?" And I said, 99. He's like, 99. Okay. We're going to change your name. And I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, it doesn't roll off the tongue so good. It sounds tricky to say." Our imaging guy that does the sweepers and the stuff that says, like, for example, like 99 in the mix, those kind of
Yeah,
things, or
yeah,
like
yeah.
DJ so and so on the wheel,
The
5 o'clock.
DJ
Those are called imaging.
Oh, okay.
It's called imaging. Yeah. So he thought that guy Eric Edwards, who does like KMEL and all these famous stations and stuff across the country, he thought he would have a problem saying it. And so they got it back. He said, "Oh, guess what? You don't got to change your name. It sounds good." So I got my sweepers and I was doing the mix on Hot 105 in 1994 summer. For 1 month, I did 4 mixes.
Wow, that's dope, man. Yeah, cause when I was listening to the radio back in the day, in the '90s, I was still in high school by then, and I was always fascinated by uh, power mixing, or just mix shows on the radio, like Friday, Saturday nights. I'll
Yeah.
be by the radio, like just listening to whoever's mixing, and it was a also a learning tool as well, like oh who's doing what, and things like that, and
Yeah, like what are they playing and how do they get from, like, when you hear a song that is a little tricky or doesn't have an outro or something like that really clean, like how
yeah,
are they going to get out of this one? Like
yeah,
I always would try to tune into other DJs too.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was always helpful to me, and it still is. Like I try to tune in
yeah,
when I can. I miss a lot of shows because, like, the time slots or whatever, but when I can, I'll try to flip around and see who's
right.
doing what.
A question I wanted to ask you, because uh, like when I would talk to a buddy of mine, like, because back then it was this whole how you say, this mysterious, this mystique about a DJ, like on the radio. Like, were you guys mixing um, at the station, or were you doing pre-recorded mixes? How did that work? Like, what was going on during that time?
On Hot
Yeah,
105,
Hot 105.
on Hot 105, it was pre-recorded, however you wanted to record it. But ultimately, at the time when I started in '94, it was I'll put on reel to reel
Mm-hmm.
and broadcast from the reel to reel over the air.
Mm.
And so whatever I put on to the reel to reel, it could be a live set or it could be a 4-track mix or whatever I wanted to put.
Yeah.
So I had a 4-track cassette recorder, and I made my mixes at home, and I drove to Merced to their production room, and I would hook in my 4-track and record the master mix down onto the reel to reel, and that's what would get aired
Nice.
in '94. In '95 was a different story. We put it on DAT
Oh wow.
tapes. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because certain stations, well, actually, uh, you worked at the station, so you would know more. But that was a common thing, right? Like real to real, and you just mentioned DATs. Like when I heard vinyl mixing, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but certain stations or a lot of stations were saying, oh, we're live in a mix, or
Right. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying,
Hey man, let me tell you,
like the oh
some
we're
stations
spinning vinyl.
some stations actually did mix live. They actually would hook in two turntables and a mixer DJ setup, and
Yeah,
they
the
would
actual
play.
setup.
Yeah, they would do that, and some stations didn't. You know, at the time, Hot 105, we didn't. It wasn't a thing to happen there. I remember I had friends that worked at Kwin in '95,
Yeah.
part of the Bomb Squad.
Yeah.
My boy Jeff Morena, he told me that they hooked up turntables and we're doing the live mixing a little bit. Not all the mixing, but some of it was Mark Medina, the music director. Yeah,
behind the scene knowledge right here.
yeah. Mark Medina was behind all the Bomb Squad. He put together the Bomb Squad at Kwin,
Right.
and he was a former Hot 105 jock, you know, and he went over to Kwin and he put together the Bomb Squad. Which I think the mixers were like 13 DJs at the one point. I counted. They had 13 DJs mixing, and some of it was experimental live, but most of it was pre-recorded.
Yeah.
But us at Hot 105, we only had three of us. It was Renee Roberts, RJ, and me. So it's basically three against 13.
Yeah.
You know, and it was fun times though. I mean, shout out to RJ and Renee who worked with me, and
Yeah.
shout out to all the Kwin Bomb Squad, the original Bomb Squad. I remember they had auditions for that. They had tryouts for that. So
Okay.
yeah, it was like a promo. They back in '95, they have you got what it takes kind of thing. You know, submit a tape now if you know how to mix or you know a DJ.
Right.
They were looking for guys,
Yeah.
and at the time when that came out, Jeff Morena, who used to be in Central Unit with me back in the days, he hit me up and said, "Hey, did you hear about Kwin? They're looking for mixers." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Are you going to submit a tape?" "I'm going to submit a tape. Let's submit a tape together. We'll be on the radio together. I know they'll accept us, you know." And but I couldn't tell him at the time. But Pete Jones gave me a call. I went to see Pete Jones, which was the program director of Hot 105. He said, "We're going to get bought by new owners, and I'm going to put a mix show in, and I want you to be part of the mix show. You've impressed me plenty already over this past year. You're going to be part of this, but don't tell anybody." So I already knew that in November of '95, I was going to be on Hot 105 guaranteed slot.
Right.
And Jeff was trying out for Kwin to be part of their squad, but he wanted me to join in and submit a tape. But I already knew I was getting a guaranteed spot on Hot 105, so I was already going to be on the air.
Yeah.
And so, but I couldn't tell him, you know. So the Bomb Squad was, I remember Jeff, Morena, Henry, Manuel C.
Henry.
Yeah, Henry from Stockton was original. Manuel C.
I remember Manuel C.
Yeah, Manuel C. was on there. Mario Elias, who was part of MC Fly Productions from with Brian Allen Sampson.
Allen Sampson.
Yeah, from Stockton. So
dropping names.
So yeah, man. I mean, I just saw Mario. I just took a picture with him, man. I hadn't seen him in so long, man. But you know, I got history with Mario Elias.
Right.
You know what I mean? Back in the days, original Central Unit days. In New Year's Eve, MC Fly had a dance at the Stockton Fairgrounds, and Central Unit got invited to spin at their MC Fly's dance.
Dude.
For New Year's.
And we didn't even touch on KUOP, man.
Yeah, KUOP, man, was a big thing, man. At one point.
Yeah, that's for another time. But
yeah,
man,
dude.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, dude.
That's Stockton knowledge right there.
Yeah, Stockton, man. Modesto and Stockton have always had a rivalry when it came to like hip hop, like straight up. And I mean, there was a gang era too, where there was a lot of gang stuff going on. But as far as hip hop, that's what I was involved in. And Stockton and Modesto always had, like, I don't want to say beefs, but a little bit of like, I could speak for Modesto. Like we didn't like Stockton at one point, you know. It was like we felt like, oh man, like these motherfuckers think they're tighter. You know what I mean? Like what I mean, you know, I don't know, but but we clicked up with a lot of Stockton people after a while. You know what I mean? It became good. You know, so. Yeah, and K-Win was also recruiting DJs from the Bay. They had DJ Please and Norman Poon. So they were just squatting up deep, man, to take out the airwaves, man. They, like I said, they had 13 guys. I'm trying to think if I'm trying to remember some other names, man. But those are the names that come to mind quickly. And we just had 3 of us, so it was cool. I liked the competition. I always like it. To this very day, you know, like it's fun, you know, and so K-Win, they were just mixing live. Sometimes I think they tried it out, but I don't think it lasted.
No, not that I remember.
Everything was pre-recorded for a while after they tried it out, and it was like, because you got to consider, like, who's going to take the turntables? Are they going to be his? Are they going to be mine?
Yeah.
Are you going to share needles? Are you going to leave it there? How long are you going to leave it there? You know what I mean? Like, all that factors in, dude. Like, if it was me, I'm not taking shit. You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is, we're very, as DJs, we're very, we take care of our equipment.
Yeah, and the station wasn't providing the stuff. You had to take it. I think Jeff took his, if I'm not mistaken. I got to hit him up and ask him, but shout out to Jeff Miranda.
Yeah, because, we're very tight-knit with our equipment.
Yeah.
Shit, like, who's bringing it? Shit, I don't want to bring it. If you're gonna bring it, I'm not gonna bring mine. So
right.
But you know what? Like the landscape of the radio stations, obviously has changed, even with the rules.
Yeah, playlists.
Like what's you know what, like, what's your take on it? Like, I don't even really listen to the station that much anymore.
Right.
Like,
You know, a lot of my friends and peers have turned away from regular broadcast radio. You know, I get a lot of that there. They say, I don't really listen to the radio no more, man. I put on my XM, you know, which is still radio, but, or they'll, you know, Spotify or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But there's still people out there who do listen to the radio. And, but there's what they call playlists and format and clock in those the radio terms. And I've been on a few stations besides Hot 105.
Okay.
I've been on Hot 94.1 in Bakersfield mixing, which was pre-recorded as well. And I mixed on Q97.1 in Fresno, which a long time ago I did a guest spot live mixing on 2 turntables back in 2000. And then I was on B95 in Fresno, which we did live mixing and pre-recorded. I was in a time slot where the boss, she wanted live mixing from 7 to 10. And then after 10, you could be pre-recorded. I was on 8 to 9, so I had to be live. So I had to drive from Modesto to Fresno just to mix live on 1 hour. But I had friends out there and family I could hang out and, you know, and then they gave me a club to do while I was out there. So it was cool. It worked out. But yeah, so I've done my share of pre-recorded and actual live mixing on the air, on the spot. And what I was going to say about format, playlists, and clock is some of the bosses, like when I got on Hot 105, I had no playlist. Pete Jones gave me free reign. I could play whatever the hell I wanted,
That's dope.
how I wanted it. So I was programming in my mixes myself. And then later on, I got into on Hot 94.1, and they had a structure. They had a playlist. We had to go by just these songs only. And if we were going to play something that was outside of those songs, we let them know and say, hey, can we requested, like, hey, what about this one? Can we play this one? How about this one? And they would say yes or no. So then I got on B95. That had a playlist plus a clock. So at B95, we had categories on a page that said A category, and it had like 10 songs of the A category. Then it had a B category. There would be 5 songs on that. And then there'd be C category, and et cetera, et cetera.
What's the clock? What is
the clock means you have to, the clock was set up, it would go like, say, for example, C, A, B, C, D, A. That means your first song has to be a C. Second song has to be a whatever letter. So you have to go and look at the whatever songs are in that C category for that week, because they change every week. So if the clock was set up CAB, that means you look in the C category. That's your first song.
Oh, okay.
Your second song for that hour is going to be an A. You look in the A category, see what songs are good. Next song would be a B. That's the clock, basically. They're telling you what category you have to pick from next, in what order. So, for example, if category A has three slow songs in it, and there's only 5 songs in the category, you only get to pick 2 songs that you can mix with. Well, guess what? You have 2.5 hours to play. So you're picking that song and then that song. You're only picking 2 of those songs. So every DJ that would come on, or basically we're playing the same shit as each other, because like in the A category, there was only 5 songs. 3 of them are slow songs. What the fuck do we do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that was whack. It was a stupid idea, the clock, you know?
Yeah.
It was implemented by a DJ who really didn't know what he was doing. Came from LA and came to Fresno trying to influence himself on the boss. Like, this is how we should do it. Let's do it this way. And it wasn't really a good idea, man.
Yeah. You know what? When you did live mixing, like, I mean, by this time you're a seasoned vet. You know, how was it mixing live on the radio? You know, like, because when I was coming up, I was like, man, like mixing live on the radio, shit, I would be nervous. Like how'd you dealt with it, and was it like, you know, pretty much easy transition or difficult? Or what
First time I mixed on the radio was actually for Q&A 7. I mixed live for a guest spot on their Easter weekend, I think. Or no, it was a 4th of July weekend, and in 2000. And it was live. I had been at a club, a weekly club spot, just where I was just freestyling, you know, knowing my records. It's just all about having confidence in what you're spinning,
Right.
Knowing the breaks, knowing your instrumentals, knowing your acapella, knowing what does what in your vinyl set. So when I mixed live on the air, I had full confidence. Just from playing weekly, I had a residency. And so when I got on the air, and they didn't have a clock that said, you only can play this category and this. No, it was like, as long as it wasn't something that wasn't in the format of the station, you could play. So I just went off, you know, and it was fun because you know you might mess up, but everybody's going to hear that shit if you mess up, man. So that's a challenge, and I love challenges, man. And I wasn't nervous. I was more excited, you know. I was like, let's do it. And there's a recording of that. I recorded that on a boombox tape that day. Yeah. So, but that was in 2000, and then I didn't mix live on B95 until 2002, which we had the clock implemented, and we had a system we had to follow. But still, I knew my records, and I knew them in and out, man, and how I was going to flip it, and on what verse I was going to do this, and what, you know, I had doubles, promos, so I could flip around and do the acapella, let the acapella ride with no beat for, you know, a couple of counts, and then drop a different instrumental on top of it, you know, like, so I was already putting together in my head what I was going to drop. But some other DJs, they weren't doing that. They were kind of like playing the Lethal Weapons or the Top Secrets, which had intros and outros, you know, and it was easier to mix those. It was more like a connect the dots picture.
There was like a bar loop.
Yeah.
Intro.
And me, I was mixing the straight up promos, which were kind of trickier, but that's just what I was just trained to do. And, you know, just,
Awesome, man.
So I had confidence, and there's recordings of that too. I had some people record my sets from there that lived in Fresno, and I would go pick up the tapes later on when I was done.
Yeah, because if you're a DJ, man, and whoever was mixing, like for example, like live mixing vinyl, like you would like, if there was a skip or like your mixing
offbeat
was off,
Yeah.
like oh shit,
Yeah,
shit,
dude,
you would catch it, like.
Let
I
me
mean,
tell
the
you.
regular public will probably wouldn't even know, the average Joe, you know. But like if you're a DJ, man, like it's like, oh man, homeboy, you know, he was off beat.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, there was a couple of times where something slipped and I couldn't catch it, you know, the way I wanted. And I listened to the tapes, and it wasn't as bad as I thought in the moment, but
we know it.
Yeah, we know it. Yeah, and it
know
kind
it.
of we kind of like you just have to be like, okay, I got to remember next time. Just block it out. And I did when I did live mixing, I blocked out a lot of the negative possibility what ifs, and that's what you got to do in life too, man. Is just do it
Yeah,
and
right on.
focus on it, man. Because if you train yourself to have the focus, you're gonna be better off, man.
Yeah.
So I just blocked a lot of shit out. I just went for it. I went for it aggressively when I played live
Right.
on B95. I was more aggressive, and so
Man, that's
yeah, dude. When somebody says, "Oh, do you guys mix live?" We're like, "Yeah, man," and they're like, "Oh, how is it?" It's to me. I just say it was exciting.
yeah, yeah.
It was, man. It's a fun thing.
Yeah. So also, I know you mentioned to me earlier that uh, like with technology, like how do you feel with the new technology, the digital age, the Serato, the compare in comparison to vinyl. What's your take on that?
Um, Personally, I think that there's companies that create these things without the DJ really in mind. They know that there's a lot of techies out there that will just be like blind sheep and just buy whatever the fuck comes out,
Right, right, right.
and they know that.
Yeah.
They know there's that contingent of
Money.
people. Yeah, they know that they're out there, and there's actually people that they just want something that will help them perform. And if it's new, they want to try it out, and if it works for them, then cool. But I never was against any kind of new technology, but I don't use it too much.
Yeah.
I get booked without using it still. Like I don't need it. I get asked to play vinyl sets, and when I go do something that's not vinyl, I got my CDs. I got CD players. I can do that still. And people will knock it and say, "You still play CDs? Oh, look at that. It's old school. Oh, look, you got a
Yeah,
CD
yeah.
player." But I didn't need to buy a laptop because came out. I still get booked without a laptop.
Right.
And I didn't need to get a controller or anything like that because I still got booked without having to own that stuff. And I still do. So one of my friends who has a mobile DJ business bought me a controller and bought me a laptop, and he put music in there and a hard drive. He got it for me. Just so when I do gigs for him, for his mobile company, I'll have that. And he said, "Hey, it's a virtual DJ actually." He said, "Hey, I've been using it for years. There's no problems with it. The problems I did have with it, I figured them out." So my whole thing was I didn't trust the technology. So and plus I was getting booked without having to go there. So it was working out fine. So now that I've been using it for about 10 months, I've been using a laptop with a controller. I think it's the SZ. Yeah, it's the SZ. It's been working out cool, but I still feel like this is the same shit I do with the CDs. It's no different. All I'm doing is playing songs still, and there's some pads where I can do some tricked out stuff, but I don't need to do that at my gigs. So I'm like, it's the same thing. I think I could be doing this with CDs too. It just looks newer,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't knock the technology. I know it's there. Some of it is there. It does help. But I really slightly would get offended when companies put out stuff that has problems in it and they know it has problems in it.
Yeah.
So you have to buy the next thing.
Right.
And I constantly see people posting on
Or the
social.
next upgrade.
Yeah, the upgrade. Oh, you have to do this now. You have to. So now you just spent your hard-earned money, and a lot of these guys have wives or girlfriends that don't like them spending money in the first place. Guess what? They got to spend more now because it don't work anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
You need to take me out of dinner.
I never trusted it, And now I've been using, like I said, the controller with the laptop with the virtual DJ. It works fine for me. I mean, I don't need anything fancy. I let the music play. I just rock dance floors. Basically, is what I do.
Yeah. Well, I can appreciate that because you're an old school cat with a lot of experience, a lot of skills, and you know your equipment, your records. I mean, yeah, the new technology, it's gonna be out there. There's always gonna be a new wave of DJs, and they'll gravitate to that, and that's good as well. And um, yeah, cause myself, I spin vinyl. Like I don't really have anything new. I thought about getting some some new equipment as well, but it's like, just another investment too. Like put your heart and soul into buying new stuff. Like
Right.
I don't know, like
Yeah, because at the end of the day, man, the music comes out through the speakers, and that's what counts. It
yeah,
doesn't matter how it gets out of the speakers, it's that it comes through the speakers. If you're playing vinyl, you're playing CD, you're
yeah,
using a phone, you're using the cheapest little controller that people clown. It don't matter, man. Like whatever you gets you the music out is what counts. And
yeah, exactly.
also too, I mean, DJs would say, "Oh, but now I don't gotta carry crates of vinyl," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, man. You know that was, it's just something you had to do. Like it was a labor of love. You
Yeah,
see what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. That
Like
was the thing
you
back then.
carried them, man. And
Yeah,
and what I express is like, wait, you're still carrying heavy speakers, you're still carrying, equipment, you're still doing all that, but you want to clown on the crates of vinyl. You know what I mean? You're still carrying things anyways,
yeah,
So it's just like the thing that got you there, you're gonna diss. Like, come on now, man.
yeah. Right. It's just like splitting hairs once again. Like just nitpicking every little thing. It's But it's bottom line is it's all about just the DJ. And I mean, if you use the new stuff, cool. The old stuff, it's cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I admire the technology. I like it. It does help people, and it can help me. But I never needed it. Is what the thing is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's pros and cons, but man, I wish we can go on forever with this.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, I would love to have you back. Shoot, man. Even on the phone, we were like, we had to cut
Hmm.
it short.
I know, man. We
We're
just
on
go
the
off,
phone for
man.
like a couple hours, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, sorry because I like some of these answers. I have like little reasons why I'm. You know what I
Oh
mean? I
yeah,
get there. You know what I mean?
yeah. No worries, cause like I said, no, I appreciate it, man, cause I figured you have a lot of history and experience, and I want you to be able to, you know, say your take on things and your experience, and in your own way. And I would love to have you back again. And shoot, man, I don't even have the name for this podcast right now. I gotta still work on that. But I appreciate you stopping by, taking your time out to come out here. And man, bro, much respect, man. For those that's gonna be this is gonna be uploaded sometime soon. But this guy is a legend in the 209 area. 209 Modesto, wherever else, Merced, Stockton,
Turlock, Patterson,
he's everywhere, man.
Los Banos.
DJ 99, y'all.
Hey, I want to say thank you to you, man,
Mhm.
for asking me to come out here. It's kind of like an honor to be the first one. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That
hell yeah. We
you know.
popped that cherry, baby.
Hey, man, wouldn't be the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. No. I appreciate it. Shit, I'm honored, bro. I'm honored. But yeah, like I said, thank you. You got anything to plug, or anything going on uh, in the near future or sometime soon?
Not really. I mean, I don't have super steady anything cracking. It just it's spontaneous. Like whatever happens, whatever comes up. Sometimes I'm down to do just random things. You know what I mean? So nothing really to plug, but I don't know. Just shout out to all the people that have been drawn to the DJ culture. We take it very serious. Some people don't understand us. They don't understand why we take it serious. Some of us are meant to do this honestly, and some of us are not. But shout out to all that are still doing it for whatever reason you do it, man. Even if it's kind of like not the same reason as the next guy,
Right.
still respect that they're doing something.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
something, yeah.
Because even some people get inspired by someone just doing it, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we're always going to be inspiring the next generation.
Right, there
So
you go.
shout out to everybody involved in the DJ culture, one way or another. Whether it's scratching, whether it's mixing, whether it's whatever type of music you do, however you do it, man. Just shout out to all the DJs.
Yeah, thank you, DJ 99. Peace.